All right. It says streaming. It's just starting up. Hello, everyone. We're just trying to get this working. Looks like it's coming through. Let's see. Seems to be just spinning on my side. I don't know if it's making it all the way through or not. Seems to be just spinning on my side. Ah, there I go. I hear me. All the way through or not. It's making it. Okay, hello everybody. I'm just sorry for the delay. Ah, there I go. I hear me. And the music started playing, so everything is going on. It's making it. Okay, hello everybody. I think we're good to go here. I just fade out the music. Welcome to the first DANK Live, number 150, but on Zoom, because Hangouts is disappearing on the 1st of August, so we're just trying to get things straight here, the day to figure it out. So here we are, we're streaming using Zoom. Now, the caveat to this is that we can talk as much as we want, me and Tank. But as soon as we get that third person coming on, we now have a timer going. And it'll be 40 minutes, but it's a free version of Zoom. So there we go. What's going on, Tank?
I'm just trying to pull my Zoom up so I can see what's going on. Sorry.
Well, you're on.
Fumble around. There you go. That's better.
We are here.
I'm always on the run. It's like I'm like Tank on the run all the time because I'm always looking for places like where I can be that I'm not going to be harassed by cops. Just for no reason. And then my house is a little noisy, but it's just so it's always so fascinating to me that that's what our society has kind of become, right? In a lot of ways, it's like I'm not doing anything wrong,
right?
Phone,
but they're going to harass you just for being outside your home right. Out sitting in a car. What are you doing there? Well, let's see your papers, please.
Right. So, really excited about this, by the way. I spoke to Ron Davis today, and Ron Davis has a pretty, I guess, kind of famous case. You know, like he got into like he really understands Black's law and all these things, right? Like the actual laws, and he was just breaking down just so fluidly all of these different things. So we're going to do an educational series of like 5-minute clips to help people understand what the real rights are according to the Constitution and the Supreme Court, right? And I'm really excited to some of the stuff is just so simple, so amazing, and it's all language, right? But he was talking about saying the first thing you have to do, everybody, is to make sure you even know the English language because the way that they've manipulated it against us.
Right.
So, been a pretty exciting day. It's been a pretty exciting day.
Well, that's actually a very good idea. A short, 5-minute pieces, right? Even 15-minute pieces, something that people can absorb quickly. It definitely lends itself for getting mass appeal, right? They can, if it's short. Our 3-hour talks, which we started with, right, were very informative, jam-packed, right? But how much do people remember, right?
No, I say that. It's like my rule when I was a teacher is it's better to give people one thing they'll never forget than 1,000 things they'll never remember.
Right.
So
exactly. Well,
so that's all for tonight, guys. See you later.
All right. Later, guys. At least we got this up and running, so we'll be back tomorrow. Well, before we go, I'm sure a lot of people are anxious to know, since you left yesterday with oh, it's good news. Kim sent me a text. I gotta go.
Yeah. So it was actually I was being included in the interaction back and forth with the tables and Kim, and the gentleman who reached out to us, right, is a recruiter and catalyst, right? He insisted on the second part of his title being added to take the position, and basically they sent him out to find assets, right? To go out and find, like royal families and different groups like this that he has contacts with, to bring back to the tables, and they'll put them through their process, right? And in so doing, they'll get you'll be rewarded. Now, in this process, which is so hilarious, like I just the arrogance of these people is just it's just hilarious to me. So it says, the very first line is, you have reached the top of the world. I mean, I add the voice, but that's what it feels like. When you say things like that, you better be badass, right? So, you have reached the top of the world. And as I read on, I just felt like it was no, I mean it, the tippy top. I mean, we're really a big deal. That's what it felt like to me, right? So,
well,
anyways,
I'm sorry, you just reminded me. It's like I was watching Gutfield, and he has his sidekick there that is a very, very big, former wrestler, right? He's he's 4 times the size of Greg, and he's kind of talking about Cory Booker giving his tough talk, saying he's going to punch Trump in the face, right? And he says, I feel my testosterone, right? And he says, if anyone talks like that, that they have that they have this anger, and I'm holding back because I really don't, I've got jujitsu, and if people talk that way, they're afraid of being hit.
Oh, they talk that way. They've never been hit in their life. I mean, it's funny because I was in somewhat of a combat sport. I mean, I was a college wrestler. I was very competitive. I competed all year round, and it was just wrestling, right? So you're not even throwing punches, but the way that you would set up takedowns and stuff is always the heel of your hand. I mean, you could always tell wrestlers, we all have some kind of cauliflower ear. We've all your face just looks like you're a wrestler, like you've been brawling, against other people. So if you look at somebody like Cory Booker, it's please, Cory Booker, Spartacus, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
that is the most You are the gladiator of the penny loafers. I mean, shut the hell up. Stop talking about anything. I never. And how dare they even? They want to punch Trump for what? For kicking ass and taking names? Like, for making our economy better, for doing things that all of you should have been doing.
Right.
It's like they're so transparent. It's like they might as well say, because they actually did say this to Kim at one point. They said, you are disrupting our way of life. Well, because their way of life was, we are used to having everyone be our slaves, and we're in control, and we do whatever we want.
Good.
So, yes, we're disrupting your way of life. Kim has gone rogue. Anyways, but so back to the email. So, the emails. There was several of them, and so there's a lot of things I can't talk about. But one of the things she talked about was, the hierarchy that was in place. Like, there's always been a hierarchy in place. And Kim said, what Kim said was, at the top of the world. Now, this was funny. They were telling her what the top of the world is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were immediately called off the gatekeeper was, because Kim was too high up. Now, you're the top of the world, right, gatekeeper, right? And so her boss says, oh, somebody is already dealing with her, but they're not. Kim said, no, they're not dealing with me at all, right? So, because here's the thing, they could be dealing with her, right? They could be changing this because they probably have the right terminal to do it. They probably do have some level of respect in the banks, right? And they probably do have those things. But what they're doing still instead is the con game, right? They're going to continue to play the same con game where they're pretending to bring assets in. So that's what Kim said. She goes, there is no, the heritage accounts. They're not there. They don't exist. There's no accounts. They've already been, accounted for or whatever. So, and she's telling them. So she's saying all these things, and she's going through the order, and she's like, okay, at the top of the order, you had right, top of the world. That is, at the top of the world was a father and two sons. That was the top.
Well, if you are a Hispanic customer,
then the next level was like, I want to say it was the parents, right? And there was 21 parents, and now there's 3 left. And then the next part was the parents. Then it was like the coven masters, and then it was the next one. And then it was like the coven
the heads of the covens, right? So those were like the head of the families. Was that right? The 13 families.
Yeah, the covens are like above. So you have the parents, and then the covens are like where the ones who like they basically thought were the gods. They thought they were right back. They thought they were like gods, right? So that's like where a lot of your myths and legends come. Like all this group, like blue gods, like elephant-headed gods, things like that, right? It all comes from that group, is my understanding, right? And then there was like, the ones who would go out and their servants who would like go out and do the work and like spread the good word of whatever it is they were preaching or whatever they were doing. Then you had, let's see, what's the next one? Then you have like the Rothschild level, right, which is like the head slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have like the secret societies, right? And then the Masons and all those.
So where's
those
the tippy top table?
There's no record of the table in Kim's records. She's like, I don't know. She actually says repeatedly, she goes, I have no idea who these people are who claim to be the tables, right? Because this is what the delusion is, right? They have to be beneath or on the level of the Rothschilds. Oh, it was the Dragon families, then like the heads of the Dragon families are then the Rothschilds and all this stuff.
I thought that's what I thought that it was the head of the covens were each family, right? Each of the 13 bloodline families, and they became one coven.
I don't know.
I might be wrong, but
might have their own.
Yeah.
But Kim broke it down she didn't want me to read the whole. She didn't want me to share the whole thing publicly, so I'm fumbling through a little bit because I don't. Usually when Kim's giving me things, I put the whole thing out.
She went through this hierarchy too on one of the must listen to on Thomas Williams. Website.
Yeah, no, I know. She's gone through it several times. That's why I am sharing it. I know I can. So, but I was walking hand. So there's this whole all these things she goes through. Some of the things she's talking about, she talks about how there is no more Fed codes, right? The Federal Reserve has no more codes. They can't do anything anymore. And these 4-digit codes they would have to pull things in, they don't exist anymore. Talked about, she talked about how she is the one who activates the codes, right? She talked about how these hackers, right, who would claim to be making their version of the QFS, the quantum financial system, was just a hacking system. And they never brought down any heritage funds, though. All they would do is they would go into the quantum financial system. They would hack the bank, basically. They would never get to the trust. And they would just take whatever cash the bank had on hand over and over again. They just been stealing from people that way. So whatever we do have, they just keep taking, And, there's no way for, some bank officer to go in and, create money, is what she was saying. They have no power, right? And they have no power, and by default, whatever the tables do to bring money in from the back ledger, neither do they. See, they all think the back ledger is something in a bank, right? As soon as I saw their protocols, in the protocols it says, what bank is it held at? As soon as I saw that, I'm like, nope. I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
You ought to know, if you know anything about this, the real back ledger isn't going to be, there. The real back ledger, not the bank's, sneaky books, right? The real back ledger. So she was breaking that down, but to his credit, this guy, this individual, he really is an advocate, for humanity, and he has some of this guy individual has some, a question. He allegedly is very close to Sasha Stone as his business partner, so that's questionable because I think Sasha Stone is shady. And then, but the whole thing that she was talking about with this, it really just speaks to the frustration behind this whole process. Because then she goes on to say, that she's related to all the 5 tribes, right? The 5 original tribes. And only 2 of the 5 tribes have stepped up. And she was saying, she just really what she needs right now isn't, some group who thinks they're the top of the world, right? Because that's going to require some kind of pandering and something else, right? He actually, this gentleman, suggested that someone else was the male counterpart to Kim, right? It was the guy who's the head of the tables, because that's always how they think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Men have come up to Kim, to come see her, allegedly there to help her, and basically offered to give her their deposit. Wink, wink. To give her, their blessed seed, and she can give them codes. It's that's actually happened to her. That's
when you said deposit, I was on the wrong track for a moment. So it took me a second to get back there.
What's funny is this, right? If you ever see any guys in this, they almost always look like a freaking train wreck, right? You don't see these really sharp, good-looking guys in this upper world of money, right? They're fat, bloated, not out of shape, right? But Kim is beautiful. She's super fit. She's gorgeous blue eyes, blonde hair. She's she really is perfect, right? So it's so funny when they make these these claims. But anyways, just side note. So I just think it's hilarious, right? It's you have all of these very average guys who think they're great. And the reason why they think they're great is because they were the best at following orders and keeping secrets, right? They're the best at having, CIA, talk, agency speak on the phone, right? If you ever talk to somebody who's high up in the agencies, you can ask them the same question 3 times. They will give you 3 completely different answers, right? You have to know how to scan through that and figure out what are you actually saying. That way no one ever really knows what you're talking about.
Right.
which is exactly how I would sum up all of this. None of them really know what they're talking about.
Right.
So,
Their goal to make sure that everything that everybody knows is completely a lie. Then then they're successful. What a world!
Yeah, but the problem is they're included in that.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
They don't
know.
They don't really know. They didn't understand what was really going on at the actual functioning level. So even now, it's like they just want to maintain their control and their lifestyle. And I'm sure there's lots of like these fat cat Satanists. Because Kim said, like, none of them, none of these groups want to do anything new, right? They don't want to change the way they've done things still now. They want to maintain, their fat cat superiority, fat, bloated, useless, rich Satanist pedophiles, right? And she said outright, she's like, they don't want to change their satanic worshiping, right? They're so used to being slaves, subjugated to some false god, and they don't want to change it.
Hey, I want to just cover something just a little. I don't want to forget this, but Dr. Digenda brought out something. There was a woman he was interviewing that it was the USSR that created a massive programming of people to do pedophilia and found out what the best way was to do blackmail rings, and they instituted that. So it was a Soviet plot really to get blackmail material on government people. It's just this was new. It was from today, so it might be something to look into.
You know what? It's not true. Everyone lays claim to the origin of pedophilia. If you there was just a video out, they're saying it's the Mossad, right? It's the Mossad technique to go in and molest kids, right? But it's like, how can you say it's Russia? I mean, look back at the Satyricon, from the Roman Empire.
Sure.
You'll see it was a common practice back then.
No,
right?
no.
The only difference is
it was this. I know, but there was a program that the Soviets were using, and they were using the scientific method to see how they could actually create pedophiles. Right.
To create pedophiles.
Right.
Great. Thank God we have that technology.
Right. Yeah, that's it. What to look for. How to basically, I guess, position that to get people down that road. Right. So way I heard it, right, is that they start with a young woman, right? Who's at a party, and then she likes this new congressman. And he gets hey, look, she's looking at you. She likes you, right? And you end up getting compromising photos. Oh well, there's a little bit of blackmail with his wife, and now down the road they go until they start lowering the age of the girls, right? So if that's their technique, that's how they figured it out. Whatever I don't know if that's it, but it was interesting that it was. As though they have some proof and they were bringing this out as something to, talk about. But
no, I do think that is true. I mean, I've seen glimpses of this and heard about it in many areas. How they would do it, right? Well, and it doesn't take much, I guess. It's like, especially because you got to think if you're an adrenaline junkie, so to speak, right? Like if you're just someone who pursues thrills, I'm like that. Like I like to go cliff jumping and go do things that gets my adrenaline pumping, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my dad is definitely like that. So if you're like that, it would if you just had somebody if there was a amplified version of that made you feel indestructible and and then they combine that with this voodoo potion they have, which I actually think is a voodoo potion that completely, strips you of any inhibitions of right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you're just in a crowd where hey, this is what we're doing. Cutting off. I mean, there's this one woman, I forget who it was, but she witnessed these things firsthand, right? And it's one of the only people that was talking about it all the way back in the 80s, about how they would just take the.
Hello? 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 You're back.
Yeah, sorry. So it would just be a gluttonous, orgy of crazed people like devouring children and having sex with each other, and like this was normal. Like this is their normal practice, right? So that kind of stuff is like you can see how you just get to a certain point and like we're trained to assimilate, right?
Right.
Like as you like go through society, like you learn better manners, right? You learn how to when you're here you act this way, and when you're with the queen you say this. You go to a different culture. And I guess if that's the culture,
right? It's the same thing with the human sacrifice and eating the hearts that the Mayans would do, or was it the Aztecs? I forget which one. Was it the Aztec? Maybe it was Aztec. I remember well, you can't judge their culture. I said, yes, I can. But the ultimate end of the line, though, if you have a culture that's based on that, is death. It's not based. You're not celebrating life. You're celebrating death, and you end up. The whole culture dies. It's just that's the direction that it's headed. Ultimately, the end of the road is death. So if we want to, ultimate end of the line for us is life. We just have to keep supporting life.
Support life. Yeah, I'm with that. Yeah, that's a hunting thing too, though. Like some hunters that are really hardcore in certain areas. Their first kill, deer, like they'll drink. Or they'll eat the heart. Or
I did.
Drink the blood or something. Did you?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
You drank the blood, or what did you eat the heart?
I ate the heart, but it was still pumping.
Oh my gosh! Really? Wow.
Yeah.
How old were you?
30 something, early 30s. It was a tuna boat.
Crap. There's no way I could have done it.
It was my first tuna, and it was a tradition of the boat, right? So if you catch your first tuna, you're supposed to eat the heart. And so I was on a day boat, or like overnight boat rather, and went out to get the find where the tuna were, and it's like 20 guys on the boat, right? And so I reel it in, and it's a 42-pound tuna. Very, it's pretty big.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah,
and took me hours. Playing with this thing, bringing it in, and then then the first mate, he jumped down, took out this long knife, and I knew that was the tradition was to eat the heart, right? And so he literally, it was like 10 seconds, he puts that knife in and pulls out the heart, and he hands it over to me. And the whole boat is saying, "Do it, do it, do it, do it." So I said, "Okay." And so I took it, and I was thinking, "Sushi, sushi, sushi."
Wow. Yeah. Different kind of sushi.
Yeah. Well, sushi, it's raw fish. But then this guy, this is the best part. Right? Then the guy comes running over to me, and he pushes this Budweiser up at me, and he says, here, wash it down with this. And I said, no. The heart was way better than the Budweiser.
Much better.
Much better.
I only do microbrews. I only do
that's it. No Budweiser, please. I mean, I hate Budweiser.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my fish story for the first heart. But it was fine. Now I'm able to swim better.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's a little different though. Like a deer. Like you're hunting a deer. I think that's the tradition with the deer. And I think that goes back to like King Arthur. It's like that kind of a tradition. So.
Yes. I did that too.
Did you really?
The first deer. Yeah.
You're badass, man.
I know. 16 point, and I was only 12 years old.
Wow, a 16-point buck? That's a big deer.
Big. and I was a small guy, right, relatively. But I was my uncle was part of what they call the Bucktails group, right? And so, but I was always going out with him, um, you know, hunting, quote unquote, right? And that was, but it never was real hunting at that time when I was younger, right? It was just kind of like going through the motions and a couple shots, but no, I think a couple times he got like pheasant and a couple pheasants, but I got a pheasant once with a bow and arrow. And,
oh
yeah, and that was, a miracle in itself because I wasn't hunting. I was just shooting in the woods with my bow, and I'd won some competitions already. And and then I just happened to rustle the pheasant out of, and it took off. And I took my aim and I went and dropped it. So I had pheasant for dinner.
Wow. And that's, I'm a mean shot with a bow too. I mean, I fired bows when I was a kid, but that's the only I guess weapon I ever had. I mean, we used to kill the squirrels and would eat the plants. And it was night and that I didn't like.
Yeah. I never really was hunting squirrels, though there was plenty of squirrels to hunt. But we did have our fortresses in their trees. We had treetop forts that we'd build, and
oh yeah, it's awesome.
And we'd actually run bridges between them, rope bridges, and we had basically wars in the tippy tops of the trees.
It's the best. So much fun. I just love that.
Yeah, we'd rig up all sorts of things, from water balloon launchers, right? Or even ping pong ball launchers, or not ping pong ball. Tennis ball launchers using the aluminum cans from drinks, right? Put them into like a bazooka-looking thing and use a lighter fluid in one end and just launch a tennis ball at your opponent's fort. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. We did that for senior day, and my hometown is notorious for this senior day, right? We would spend the whole night before blowing up balloons until we'd have 1,000 balloons in the back of a pickup truck. We'd build walls up on the side of the pickup truck, and we would chase freshmen around and everybody around nailing the balloons. And I actually dented a brand new truck with a water balloon launcher across the football field. And I also just with a water balloon, I just dropped the balloon on my friend's car window and smashed the windshield. Couldn't believe it. So it was a good day.
Well, it was a good day.
Anyways,
that's
how the Kabbalah's made. Hope that all makes sense.
So, any other things you can say about what's gone on with this interactions? Are we going to see testing or anything happening where this will be the breakthrough, or is Kim working on another breakthrough?
This is why I put out a call to action from the tables, right? Is put up or shut up. Don't tell me you're the top of the world. And I mean this. I'm so sick and tired of these guys. What's the worst part is they always take somebody who's just been put through the ringer, right? They've been pursuing this their whole life. For the same reason a lot of us are, right? It's I don't want to have to worry about money, right? I don't think you should. I want to just be a creator. I want to go out and build things and make things and change the world and make tree fort villages where fathers can bond with their son. That's true. You ask anybody. I've been talking about that for 5 years. I've always said this. I already know the plot of land and everything. I'm going to buy this plot of land with the biggest trees I can find. I'm going to build a tree fort village for fathers to come and build with their sons and hang out. Be guys.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make one for girls too. But
no girls allowed.
Perfect. Well, they can have their own. We'll just have balloon wars. It'll be great. Boys against the girls. It'll be awesome. But the point is just Life should be fun. Life should be filled with joy.
No,
life should have a place that's safe.
Listen, we had girls in our forts, right? I'm just joking around. I go back to like the Little Rascals, and they had the He-Man Woman Haters Club. All those
Woman Haters
boys,
Club, right?
Yeah, Alfalfa and Spanky and that, and they wouldn't let the girls in. And then eventually, Darla was let in. I think it was Alfalfa that did it or something. Spanky got upset. I forget what it was. God, I was so young when I watched those.
Darla set the tone for everybody. I know. So what I'm sick and tired of these guys talking about they're benevolent. They're so benevolent. They're so much. But you know what? True benevolence doesn't need an announcement like that.
Right.
If you're really benevolent, just be yourself. It'll be obvious to everyone. Benevolent people don't hold all the money and hold it back and pretend that it's because they're benevolent. Benevolent people don't do things that are hurting the entire world while children are being crushed and thousands of innocents are dying every day from hunger while they hold the technology back that could that could change everything. People that are actually benevolent, it's not an act. They don't act benevolent. They are benevolent. Right. So the tables, the dragon families, the Chinese dragons, the Chinese elders, the reformed Rothschilds and their infinite wisdom, all of you bullshit, fraudulent liars, every one of you. And you know what? Most of all the governments are like that too. And the proof is right now, all you slaves that are still jumping through hoops, you're so happy to be a Satanist pedophile slave that are listening and fearful of Steve, Mad Dog, Mangina, Mnuchin right now. You think that he is more important than every child that has died? His life is no more valuable than any single child that has been abused, raped, killed, while he did nothing. Matter of fact, he supported it as part of it. You know what? And I sent a message to Trump today. I just had tweeted him. Not that he saw it, but in my mind, I always like to think he does. But I sent him because this came out about Linda Collins-Smith, the former senator from Arkansas, how what she found, one of the other things she found, in addition to these other connections to CPS, this is how rock solid her case was against the Clintons, okay? Her husband was a judge. And on his computer, his government laptop, they found videotapes of him raping children in the judge's chambers in a part of the building where all the cameras had been removed, right? So just to make sure he could relive it, he recorded it with his laptop, his government laptop, right? And she found that, and the children were provided to him by the CPS, or down there it's the DHS, it's the Department of Human Services. So it's kind of like a pizza delivery service, right? But a human delivery service. They take children from your house and deliver them to some grimy, old, wrinkly judge so he can, have his way with them. And so, we put about a little 15-minute video out about that the other day, Michelle, when she broke it, right? Because we were talking about that 2 months ago. And now they're just coming around to realize, oh my gosh, this is true. There was like 6,000 hate texts against Michelle saying she was lying, right? She was attacked. I'm sure I was attacked too, but I don't read anything, so it doesn't affect me. So anybody out there who really hates me and wants to put things out, like, go to town, have a good time, because I could care less. But Michelle was affected by it, and the point is that she was affected by it. And here it is. It's like, all that had to happen. Think of all the children this past year that could have been saved, that wouldn't have had to have their innocence destroyed. If the money that we've been working so hard to bring in, if Steve Mnuchin would have just done his job, right, and provide relief money to, but they don't even care. They don't even think about those people. They just feel like they're slaves.
Where's the benevolence?
Benevolence. Yeah, where are your precious Chinese elders? Where are they at? Are they meditating somewhere, like floating in like huts? And when you go in, they're going to say it's all part of the plan. Like no, it's not. And if that's the plan sucks. And we should change it.
Yeah. Time for new plan. Time for new game. Time to move past all this garbage.
But this is what I realized, and it really bothers me. Kim had said to me a few months ago that we have to get rid of the hierarchy, and I didn't understand what she was talking about at the time. Because the way it just didn't make sense. So when I saw this hierarchy, right, that she talks about, the key to all this is to unwind the hierarchy, right? But to do that, the 5 tribes have to step up. Now, I didn't know they had to step up right now. I'm like, can't we just bring the money in? And I think we can, because she's doing that, like she's working to bring the money in. But she says, like, this is only one of her jobs, and like she has several jobs that have nothing to do with money. But there's the position she plays, like she's the comptroller, she's the custodian, she's the trustee, and whatever the other positions are. She's all those positions because the tribes didn't step up. Well, right now it's time for the tribes to step up. And Tui's already demonstrated it can be done. Came out publicly every day. I mean, think about this. We've done 150 shows. I bet Tui was on 80, 90 of them. I mean, a lot.
Yep, this is the 150th show. Yes. Well, we were only doing 15, so we're 10 times overshot. So. Well, so what's the other tribe that's a step forward? Is it the Aboriginals?
Yeah, the Aboriginals, right?
All right. So the others, what are the other 3? Can you say?
See, I don't know actually. I mean, I have an idea, right? But it's hard. See, now it's interesting. I was approached, and a young lady's actually in the network, and she approached me, and she told me that she is the rightful bloodline chief of the Cherokee, right? And then she goes, the true Cherokee. And she had like a real DNA test done, and there was something that they found specifically in her DNA and body scans that she did, right? Like some wings or something like this that they identified, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she called me, and she was very aware of Kim and together, and I haven't talked to her in months, but I mean, she was definitely aware of a lot of things, and she she said that she was black, so it's like
she was what?
I don't know how many people would she was black. So and she was a black woman, and she was the head of the Cherokee Nation, is what she said, right? Now, I don't know how many in the Cherokee Nation would agree with that, but it could be the same way with Kim, So it's very possible, is my point, right? So, but I think the other day it's like, well, these leaders of the tribes of these 5 original, and I don't know if the Cherokee are original either. By the way, I'm just.
I was going to guess it was the Iroquois, but it could be Cherokee, because I think Cherokee are related to the Iroquois. But I'm not so certain about that. But
and I think the Iroquois are descended from Atlantis. So that could be. I mean, you have the Iroquois giants that were up in Connecticut. They, 7 to 8 foot tall, whole tribes of burial grounds found of, giant Iroquois.
Mm.
So they wouldn't even have been giants. They would have just been normal, healthy Iroquois. That's what they looked like, The Iroquois are also famous in New York City as the Iroquois Sky People, because the Iroquois had no fear of heights. So they are the ones, the Iroquois Nation are the ones who built a lot of skyscrapers, because a lot of people can't build the skyscrapers because they go so high up, they just get scared.
Yeah, it's a little bit trippy up there.
It is trippy up there, yeah.
Yeah, I was in a building not too long ago in Manila, the top of the helipad, right? And the guy I was up there with, he just didn't really want to stay up there. I'm looking over the edge. leaning out or so looking out. And it was making him dizzy, me looking out over the edge.
When I was 5 years old, I rappelled with my father down a 500-foot face of a dam, right? And before I did, my crazy uncle hung me over the side of the thing so I could see it. And I lost my mind, screaming and freaking out. And I still had to rappel down it. Like, it was there, but I remember just hanging me over this. I'm like, are you just holding on to me with your hands? Like what are you doing, you're a kid? Like, it was terrifying. I mean, back then it was a little looser, right?
Yeah, well, that's one of those male things, right? Your crazy uncles will do that, right? because if your father does it, then your mother will like slap him.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Makes for a good story.
Yeah.
So.
Well, okay. What else should we cover? Anything in particular that we're missing on? I know that it seems like these arrests are looming. Someone sent me a clip. Said, "Hey, look here on this at this time code," and it was Kim would be interested in this, and okay, and it was like the Patriot Hour or something like that, and so I listened to it, and it was an interview with David Steele had said.
Oh my gosh!
I know, but what he said was, there's 1.2 trillion going to be coming into the system from the bottom up, and so. I thought that was, also interesting. I don't know where that came from. I tried to.
That could be true because, Kim talked about, I want to say that she's funded. The other day on the phone, she actually said that she's funded the U.S. government. I think she actually said something like 100, plus $1 trillion. So if you think 2% goes back to her, that makes sense. I mean, that would be money that's coming in from the bottom.
Right. Well,
I was talking about, like, if you look at it, it's such an anomaly when I think about it. I guess I'm just too simple to even appreciate it or be awestruck by it. But but like, Kim's the top. We're the bottom, really. We're all the way at the bottom, and it's just like, and you see it, like how slaves are treated, right? This is why they're able to do all this stuff.
Right.
Because they are above us.
Yeah. That's why I think in reversing the flow, all the money flows to the people in the system, and the people have to send it out whenever, for them to pay people to do things for their business that they're going to open up, pay people to come into their business.
Well, it actually makes sense if you look at a torus energy field, right?
Yeah.
You look at it like
exactly
being in the middle, and that, like, if you look at the middle, it's that being top, so to speak, the 0 point.
Yeah. And
it goes out and around and then to the bottom and into the planet, and that would be where we are.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
Well, I see it as a double torsion field kind of thing, that it's been capped. Put a pyramid on the top of the torsion field, and all the energy gets directed to the middle center top of the pyramid. But if you can kind of allow for the flow to happen the opposite direction, I think we can really be on a road away from money as being the out of greed. I think we can remove greed if we're just reversing it, because then everyone recognizes that everything they do is valuable. Now, if they don't do too much, they don't have as much, and that's fine, right? Because they don't want to do as much. Right now, we have people that don't do anything, and they get everything.
Very true.
So we got to reverse that.
I asked him about the chemtrails turning us into spider insectoids to enslave us,
mm-hmm.
and she's like, yeah, everything they do is just trying to enslave us. Everything.
yeah. That's just one of
like,
those things.
I mean, because really, if you're vibrating at just a higher frequency, I just don't think that things can affect you. It's like that that flying machine. This guy made a little platform that was able to go, like 1,000 miles an hour right in the air.
Yeah, yeah.
He said he could wear a tuxedo wearing it because as soon as he got on it, it vibrated at such a frequency that it created its own force field. But in reality, it was just vibrating at such a frequency that it would go right through trees because it was, vibrating at a higher frequency. So it wouldn't hit anything.
I didn't know that part of it. I saw some little video of the guy roaming around on this hoverboard, but I didn't know
I saw it too.
I didn't know if it went that fast. I didn't catch that part.
The way he described it is he could be anywhere, and he could go fully dressed in a tuxedo and just show up someplace and be no wind, nothing, regardless of the elements. Just fascinating stuff.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, I tend to look at those things, drones and that kind of thing. I actually think, these single-seater drones or, double, triple, quadruple seaters could, help alleviate traffic in, like, say, Manila, for example. And it's one of the projects I proposed when we were dealing with the Asia Infrastructure Bank, and we were going to bring in $2 trillion into the Philippines. We had everything ready to go. Central bank wouldn't let the money come in. But that was one of the projects, to literally create kind of a taxi service for and start, getting these drones. And I think of course there's a lot of wind with them, so you keep them on the tops of there's a lot of skyscrapers. Well, upwards of 40 stories in Manila. Actually, probably there's some up in the 50 stories. And that good place to put them, sides of buildings, little balconies for landing strips where you want to have your condo, right? You have instead of a garage, it's a pad sticking on the edge of the like a balcony off of your house, or you mean off your condo. Get in your drone and off you go.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So, and anything else we should cover? Are we good for the day?
Good for the day, man. Nothing else I don't think anything really share. But can't be too far away. I pray. I pray. On the 8th, I might have to break our streak because I might have to travel. I'm hoping that this goes down with Kim before then. But if not, I will be traveling and can't avoid it. So.
It's okay. Well, we could go earlier or later. Remember, later for you is your next morning, but for me, it's be the same day. Anyway, we can play with that we can just stream for 10 minutes at the airport.
Absolutely.
So
about to go. No one know where I am for a while. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it'd be that kind of thing. All right. Yeah.
Well, I don't think. I don't say that.
Well, if you're traveling underground, it may be difficult. Maybe they have Wi-Fi down there. I don't know.
That would be so cool. Yeah. I would just show up in people's dreams, just broadcast telekinetically. Yeah. Amazing.
Hey, I know.
Tank Live.
Well, yeah. Some people were asking, did I send Tui the link? I said yes, I did send Tui the link, just for those people that are asking, the Zoom link, right? And but obviously, I did chat with Tui on Telegram yesterday, and he's been in meetings, and I said, are they underground? No, not underground, but. Anyway, I was just kind of joking around. And eventually, I thought maybe, Kim and him are meeting up with the other tribes, but all underground in some place in Agartha.
That'd be so cool. Yeah.
You never know.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
What's that?
Micronesia. Because they reach out to us.
Oh.
So, hey, 3 of the 5. I'm going to have to share that. So I can.
Well, yeah. So Micronesia, you remember I've got my friend there that has been in contact with us in the Hawaiian group, right?
Right.
So he's on one of the islands there is Koshai, right? So they don't like the name Micronesia. So they're but yeah, I think if that's one of the tribes, that would be great. You know, is Papua New Guinea one of them? I think the Maori seem to be like one of the others that Tui's been talking about.
Isn't that King Manna?
Well, Kingdom of Manna did get some land from Papua New Guinea.
Papua New Guinea, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I think
that would make sense, right? Yeah.
And I think that Tui had said, he's been in contact with those chiefs and said that's, the wrong path.
Oh, right. Yeah. So maybe that's maybe that's part of the battle, right? And this is part of the reason why the cease and desist letter that Kim is drafting needs to go out to Kingdom of Manna, because they're not the rightful anything.
No. Yeah. So that's very very important, and get it into the hands of the people so that they know that this is what the situation. That's what I said when I read if I came fresh, to the Speak project and saw the documents that were there, I think Kingdom of Manna is it, right? Because it's all talking about how it's set up. It doesn't show, hey, it's been dismantled, right? And it was bad actions. Oh, actually, there was something I wanted to ask you. I'm just on a time frame wise. It looks like the Kingdom of Manna was put into place, and then it was a month later that Kim pulled the plug on it. Was it that short of a period?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I was reviewing the documents, and I said, "Wow, they didn't last a month."
Yeah. Well, because it was revealed that they were, plotting against Kim.
Right, and in that letter, that one recognition, it says, for them to protect Kim. Right. I was gonna, in that sample cease and desist, I was gonna pull that into it, and I said, well, that gets a little in depth, and I don't know what Kim would want in it, and I don't know what she put in the original one. So, anyway, but
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're good.
Okay.
Let's see. We'll shut this down.
Okay.
We'll shut this down for now, and we'll be back again. Hopefully, we can do the Zoom a little bit better next time around. If we get it straight. So
that's cool.
Okay, I'm ready to stop the streaming and say thanks for everyone for participating. Please share. Please subscribe. And we'll see everyone tomorrow.
All right. Later.
Thanks, Tank.